Hey everyone, welcome back to Planetary Intelligence. As you can tell from the title today, it's been a long-awaited presentation. I did a co-presentation with Jason Breshears from Archaix back last year, about almost a year ago now. Actually, it's been a while. I did contact him and I did email him twice actually, but I didn't receive any response from him. Namely maybe because his email inbox is constantly flooded. Another reason, because I remember at that time a lot of things were going on for Jason, so it could have easily just gone past him. So Jason, if you're watching this, I thought to actually share the findings and conclude our um, presentation, and would love to collaborate with you again should you want to, should you feel called to do it. However, I'm going to just continue on finishing off because I like tying up loose ends, and this for me is a loose end. So I wanted to finish off my sharing because we only namely presented the prophecy of the Mohammedan prophecies based on the hadiths, which are, not the Quran, essentially. It's just one half of the Islamic beliefs. And so I wanted to just put the information out there, conclude this presentation. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoy it. I hope it brings you something and allows questions. Again, the presentation is titled, Is the Phoenix in the Quran? And this is for you to come up to with your own conclusions and building on really Jason's research and knowledge. So I wanted to add on top of that and bring in, an extra layer to the Phoenix research and to see, if this research aligns with Jason's research. So without further ado, I will start by sharing my screen. The Phoenix events in the Quran. We start off with the civilization of Ad and Thamud. Now, just to give you a little bit of a backstory on the civilization of Ad and Thamud, I'm just going to go back to my browser here, just because I pulled up some research on the civilizations of Ad and Thamud. So, with Ad, this is again conjecture because there's obviously no final evidence to conclude where and who the civilization of Ad were. According to the Islamic literature, Ad was a king who was like the great grandson of Noah. So he's related to Noah, and this civilization and further on from King Ad and his progeny that continued on that civilization, they were known as the civilization of Ad. So, and yeah, the Ad is believed to have been situated in the windswept hills between Oman and Yemen. And I believe we did talk about, Jason and I did talk about the empty quarter, which spans here, as you can see. It's between the UAE, Oman, parts of Yemen, and predominantly Saudi Arabia. So this empty quarter is where it is said that the civilization of Ad once existed. So going back to the presentation. Chapter 41, Fusilat, or detail. Verse 13, but if they turn away, then say, I warn you of a thunderbolt. like the thunderbolt of Ad and Thamud. In verse 16, therefore we let loose on them a raging wind in evil days, that we might make them taste the torment of disgrace in the life of the world, and verily the doom of the hereafter will be more shameful, and they will not be helped. Chapter 46, the Dunes, verse 21 to 25, and make mention of the brother of Ad, when he warned his folk among the wind-curved sandhills, and verily warners came and went before and after him, saying, serve none but Allah. Lo, I fear for you the doom of a tremendous day. They said, hast come to turn us away from our gods? Then bring upon us that wherewith thou threaten us, if thou art of the truthful. He said, the knowledge is with Allah only. I convey unto you that wherewith I have been sent. But I see you are a folk that know not. Then, when they beheld it, as a dense cloud coming toward their valleys, they said, here is a cloud bringing us rain. Nay, but it is that which ye did seek to hasten, a wind wherein is painful torment, destroying all things by commandment of its Lord, and morning found them, so that naught could be seen save their dwellings. Thus do we reward the guilty folk. So chapter 51, and it's called the Dhariyat, the scattering winds. Verse 41, 42, and in the tribe of Ad, when we sent the fatal wind against them, it spared naught that it reached, but made it all as dust. Chapter 46, and as for Ad, they were destroyed by a fierce roaring wind, which he imposed on them for 7 long nights and 8 long days, so that thou mightest have seen men lying overthrown, as they were hollow trunks of palm trees. Quite harrowing stuff here, in terms of this possible phoenix events here. Chapter 7, Al-A'raf, the heights, 74 to 78. And remember how he made you viceroys after Ad, and gave you station in the earth. You chose castles in the plains and hew the mountains into dwellings. So remember the bounties of Allah, and do no evil, making mischief in the earth. The chieftains of his people who were scornful said unto those whom they despised, and unto such of them as believed, know ye that Salih is one sent from his Lord? They said, lo, in that wherewith he hath been sent we are believers. Those who were scornful said, lo, in that which ye believe we are disbelievers. So they hamstrung the she-camel, and they flouted the commandment of their Lord. And they said, O Salih, bring upon us that thou threatenest, if thou art indeed of those sent from Allah. So the earthquake seized them, and morning found them prostrate in their dwelling place. I think this is specifically referring to the civilization of Thamud instead of Ad. So just a bit of a backstory on Thamud. This is just a basic pull-up of Britannica Encyclopedia. Obviously, do your own research, folks. There is a lot out there, and books that you can actually get to verify these archaeological details. Thamud in ancient Arabia is the tribe or group of tribes known to be extant from the 8th century to the 5th century BCE or CE. The Thamud were known from contemporary sources to have occupied parts of the Hijaz region, and later Islamic tradition holds that they settled on the slopes of Mount Atlab. Numerous rock writings and pictures traditionally attributed to the Thamud have been found on Mount Atlab and throughout Central Arabia. Though labeled Thamudic, they actually reflect a diverse set of ancient Semitic dialects used by various Arabian tribes. So here you can see a photo of the ancient house, an ancient house carved in a mountain attributed to the Thamud. Again, very interesting, isn't it? When you look at it, it reminds me of the Petra glyphs. Well, not Petra, the Petra monuments etched into the Petra cliffs. So it reminds me of that. Interesting entrances again. Architecture can tell you so much. And obviously there's been so many great researchers out there who've delved into the architecture and the hidden past that's been hidden from us from mainstream academia. So yeah, that's just a bit of backdrop on, you know, on the civilization of Thamud. Chapter 11, Hud. Hud was a prophet, for those of you who don't know. 66 to 68. So when our commandment came to pass, we saved Saleh and those who believed with him by a mercy from us from the ignominy of that day. Lo, thy Lord, he is the strong, the mighty. And the cry overtook those who did wrong, so that morning found them prostrate in their dwellings, as though they had not dwelt there. Lo, Thamud disbelieved in their Lord, a far removal for Thamud. Chapter 51, The Scattering Winds. And in Thamud there is a portent, when it was told them, take your ease a while. But they rebelled against their Lord decree. And so the thunderbolt overtook them, even while they gazed, and they were unable to rise up, nor could they help themselves. Chapter 54, The Moon. Lo, we sent upon them one shout, and they became as the dry twigs rejected by the builder of a cattle fold. Chapter 69, The Reality. Verses 4 to 5. Thamud and Ad disbelieved in the judgment to come. As for Thamud, they were destroyed by the lightning. So we'll stop there just before we go on to Sodom and Gomorrah. So we have a civilization that was wiped out by ultimately a storm or a wind, and the later civilization of Thamud was wiped out by lightning bolts or a lightning storm. So we have two different types of reset events here. Obviously, you would relate these to natural disasters, what we would call natural disasters or mass natural disasters, just like the flood. Again, what are your thoughts here? Because for me, uh, the Quran clearly states these reset events or events that are wiping out civilizations en masse, save the prophets and a few people from those civilizations who escaped. It was quite a few years back, I think in the early 2000s, when there was uh, a great tsunami in the Far East, and it killed quite a few people. But when they examined, upon examination of the fatalities, one thing they didn't find a lot of is animals. They didn't find dead animals, a lot of dead animals about. So obviously these animals knew what was coming. And in a way, we have been so disconnected from our this from the source within, so to speak, that we wouldn't see these things. We wouldn't know, but the animals knew. So it gives you things to ponder on and pause and reflect on, you know, to come to your own conclusions as to what really is, what it means to be the chosen, or not that you're favored, but by a god or a deity, but I think the awakening has a certain those who are in that process of awakening. Part of that is to realize that we are more powerful than what we think we are or what we taught that we are. So yeah, continuing on, I'll go back and resume from Sodom and Gomorrah. So I don't need to obviously go back to the backdrop. I think a lot of you can do your own research and know the civilization of Sodom and Gomorrah. Jason's done a lot of presentations on that as well. So here we have chapter 7, Al-A'raf, the heights, verses 80 to 84. And Lot, remember when he said unto his folk, will ye commit abomination, such as no creature ever did before you? Lo, ye come with lust unto men instead of women, nay, but ye are wanton folk. And the answer of his people was only that they said one to another, turn them out of your township. They are folk, forsooth, who keep pure. And we rescued him and his household, save his wife, who was of those who stayed behind. And we rained a rain upon them. So now the nature of the consequence of see now the nature of the consequence of the evildoer. Again, take these verses with a pinch of salt, people. All right. You know, because the Quran has a certain interpretation of what we call Allah, you know, and Allah just means God or the God. Allah, Allah, or Al-Ilah is just means the God. So, and given the fact that we have this God that is the same God of the Jews and the same God of the Christians, as it is with Islam, yet these very same religions seem to like fighting each other. What kind of God does that? Interesting. Who would want to cause strife and war amongst their own followers? What kind of God is that? Makes you wonder. So, continuing on, chapter 11, Hud. The messengers said, O Lot, lo, we are messengers of thy Lord. They shall not reach thee. So travel with thy people in a part of the night, and let not one of you turn around, save thy wife. Lo, that which smiteth them will smite her. Lo, their tryst is for the morning. Is not the morning nigh? So when our commandment came to pass, we overthrew and rained upon it stones of clay, one after another, marked with fire in the providence of thy Lord, for the destruction of the wicked. And they are never far from the wrongdoers. I try to ignore, sometimes I'll read the stuff in the brackets, but I try to ignore because these are just interpretations of the translators who translated the Quran. And I have looked through these verses, by the way, to verify my own, from my own command of the Arabic language and English, of course. So, chapter 26, Ash-Shu'ara, the poets, 165 to 173. What of all creatures do ye come unto the males, and leave the wives your Lord created for you? Nay, but ye are froward folk. They said, if thou cease not, O Lot, thou wilt soon be of the outcast. He said, I am in truth of those who hate your conduct. My Lord, save me and my household from what they do. So we saved him and his household, everyone, save an old woman among those who stayed behind. Then afterward we destroyed the others, and we rained on them a rain. A dreadful is the rain of those who have been warned. Chapter 29, The Spider, verses 33 to 34. And when our messengers came unto Lot, he was troubled upon their account, for he could not protect them. But they said, fear not, nor grieve. Lo, we are to deliver thee and thy household, save thy wife, who is of those who stay behind. Lo, we are about to bring down upon the folk of this township a fury from the sky, because they are evil livers. Chapter 54, The Moon. The folk of Lot rejected warnings. Lo, we sent a storm of stones upon them, save the family of Lot, whom we rescued in the last watch of the night. as grace from us. Thus we reward him who giveth thanks. And he indeed had warned them of our blow, but they did doubt the warnings. The Midian or the Median, also known in the 8th to 7th century BC. Again, you can do your own research to find out who these guys are, who this civilization was, who these guys are, but this civilization was. You know what I mean. Anyway, chapter 7, Al-A'raf, the heights. But the chieftains of his people who are disbelieving said, if ye follow Shu'aib, then truly ye shall be the losers. So the earthquake seized them, and morning found them prostrate in their dwelling place. Those who denied Shu'aib became as though they had not dwelt there. Those who denied Shu'aib, they were the losers. Chapter 11, Hud. And when our commandment came to pass, we saved Shu'aib and those who believed with him by a mercy from us. And the awful cry seized those who did injustice, and morning found them prostrate in their dwellings, as though they had not dwelt there, a far removal for Midian, even as Thamud had been removed afar. So yeah, not very many. Probably there's probably a few more on the Midian, but not very many. Not as many as I could find for as I did for Ad and Thamud. Another reset event, according to the Quran, another cataclysm which befell the people of Egypt. Chapter 7, Al-A'raf, the heights. And we straitened Pharaoh's folk with famine and dearth of fruits, that peradventure they might heed. So we sent against them the flood, and the locusts, and the vermin, and the frogs, and the blood, a succession of clear signs, but they were arrogant and became a guilty folk. But when we did remove from them the terror for a term, which they must reach, behold, they broke their covenant. Therefore we took retribution from them. Therefore we drowned them in the sea, because they denied our revelations, and were heedless of them. And we caused the folk who were despised to inherit the eastern parts of the land, and the western parts thereof which we had blessed. And the fair word of thy Lord was fulfilled for the children of Israel, because of their endurance, and we annihilated all that Pharaoh and his folk had done, and they had contrived. Chapter 8, Al-Anfal. Similar to the behavior of the people of Pharaoh and those before them, they denied the signs of their Lord, so we destroyed them for their guilt, and we drowned the people of Pharaoh, for they were wrongdoers. Chapter 29, the spider. And Qura, Pharaoh, and Haman. Moses came unto them with clear proofs, but they were boastful in the land, and they were not winners. So we took each one in his sin. Of them was he on whom we sent a hurricane, and of them was he who was overtaken by the cry, and of them was he whom we caused the earth to swallow, and of them was he whom we drowned. It was not for Allah to wrong them, but they wronged themselves. So clearly there's these various methods, let's just say, of reset events. We have hurricanes or winds. We have a cry, a form of sound, maybe a sound weapon. And where it says that we have earthquakes or form of earthquakes, and we have floods. We also had, I think, mentioned, stones of fire as well. So chapter 40, Al-Ghafir, the forgiver. So Allah warded off from him the evils which they plotted, while a dreadful doom encompassed Pharaoh's folk. The fire, they are exposed to it morning and evening, and on the day when the hour upriseth, cause Pharaoh's folk to enter the most awful doom. Al-Furqan, the criterion. And these are related verses to all the reset events. And the tribes of Ad and Thamud and the dwellers in Ar-Ras and many generations in between, each we warned by examples, and each of them we brought to utter ruin. And indeed, they have passed by the township whereon was rained the fatal rain. Can it be that they have not seen it? Nay, but they hope for no resurrection. Interesting. Again, resurrection, reincarnation. I just go back to the previous one. Now, we have this we. Again, this is subject to interpretation. So, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think that these verses relate to the Phoenix event? And why is the Quran the only, or the Quran itself, the only corpus out of the three religions that seems to focus a lot on these destructive events, cataclysms? So, things to think about, things to ponder. I would love Jason's thoughts on this. Should he watch this? I'm passionate about finding out about the mysteries of this realm and what's hidden. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this presentation. It's not a very long one, as is predominantly one way here. So yeah, leave your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know what you think. And yeah, gets you to ponder a bit more about, these civilizations. And we're not, we're also amongst those civilizations at this current moment in time. So many civilizations have come and gone in the past, and it's uh, again, are we to go through this in the 2046 or 2040 event? Yeah, again, I would love to hear your thoughts, and yeah, look forward to the next time. Thank you for joining me.